The
Yeah.
end goal is
Got it.
you're using the sport to sort of help develop you as a person and get you ready for life. Because even if you're John Elway and have a 20-year career and you go out winning the Super Bowl on your last play, you're still a 40-year-old man, let's say.
Yeah. What are you going to do next? What are you going to do
What are you going to
next?
do next? You look at LeBron and all that he's accomplished. There's going to be a day when he's not going to be playing basketball in the NBA anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so part of learning a sport is learning yourself and growing to the place where you're ready for, hopefully the majority of your life is going to be not playing competitive sports.
Yeah. Okay.
But the lessons that you learn while you're playing will help you in everything that you do, really.
Sure. No, that's important. Not only just football, but any sport for that matter. Time out. Let me ask you this. What if the gap between where you are today and where you want to be isn't talent? It's how you're training when no one's watching. That's what this studio podcast is all about. We don't chase motivation. We don't hype potential. We build identity through habits, standards, and systems. This is where student athletes, parents, coaches, and leaders come to sharpen how they think, prepare, and perform. I'm Coach Randy, and this is the Built Different Studio Podcast. What's up, family? Coach Randy here. Welcome to the Built Different Studio Podcast, where we don't just talk about success, we train it. Mindset, systems, and habits. This is where champions in school, sport, and life are made. Let's lock in and let's build. Family, today's episode matters because we're living in a time where everybody wants results, but not everybody wants the discipline required to earn them. And isn't it interesting how the people who look the most successful on the outside usually mastered consistency long before anybody knew their name? Today, we've got somebody in the studio who understands that at a deep level. Kevin Garnett is a co-executive producer, a leader in entertainment, a former football player, a husband, a father, and someone who's lived through environments where excellence wasn't optional, it was expected. But what I respect most about Kevin is this. He understands that leadership starts long before titles show up. Through faith, sports, family, and high-pressure environments, Kevin learned something most people miss. Discipline isn't punishment. It's preparation and family. That's why this conversation matters, because today we're talking about consistency, we're talking about standards, and we're talking about how real leaders stay grounded while carrying pressure, responsibility, and expectations. If you've ever struggled with staying focused, if you've ever wondered why some people keep leveling up while others stay stuck, this episode is going to hit different. So today, we're pulling back the curtain. We're ready to talk identity. We're talking leadership. And we're talking what it truly means to be built different. Family, help me welcome Kevin Garnett. Kevin, welcome.
Thank you, Coach Randy. That was a great introduction.
I appreciate you,
Yeah.
coming on today.
Yeah,
Hope you
thanks
guys
for
had a
having me.
nice Mother's Day weekend. We talked about that. We actually watched the Michael Jackson movie, which was pretty good. So before we dive in, I want to start with you. Not the title, not the industry, not the accomplishments. You, for everyone listening, tell us about your story, your roots, and the environments that shaped your mindset early on. Because every strong leader has a foundation, and I want people to hear yours.
Well, absolutely. Again, thanks for having me on, Coach Randy.
Sure.
I started, my foundation really is my parents.
Okay.
My grandparents and my parents. My paternal grandfather was a minister, so all of my dad and his siblings were all raised in the church. That was sort of the foundation for them.
Nice.
And my dad was a salesman, worked for Xerox for several years, worked his way up from field sales, driving around. We lived in Aurora, Colorado at the time, so he would drive from Colorado to Wyoming and Montana and sell copiers and all that sort of stuff. And he worked his way from there all the way up to being CEO of one of Xerox's subsidiary companies called Crystal, I believe. But anyway, he became CEO of one of their subsidiary companies.
Wow.
My mom started as a teacher and worked in education throughout her career. going on to work for a company that sold books to libraries and schools and stuff like that. So education was a foundation for us. I have an older brother, Dave. He's a year and a half older than myself.
Okay.
Because my dad worked for Xerox, we ended up moving around a lot when we were kids.
Yeah.
It was basically the four of us stuck together, moving from Aurora, Colorado to Chesterfield, Missouri, outside of St. Louis, and finally Naperville, Illinois, right outside of Chicago. So that was our high school and junior high experience there. And so we grew up playing sports, mainly football. And the big reason for that is because our dad played football in college at University of Pittsburgh, which is where he met my mom.
Okay. Wow.
And he always likes to say that they retired his number after he left.
Yeah.
Which of course he doesn't mention the fact that Tony Dorsett wore that number after him, and then they retired it after Tony Dorsett left. But it was still his number. So he had a great career there in the late 60s, and then ended up being drafted by the Oakland Raiders. So
he made it to the pro level. Your dad,
made it to the pro level. He was in the same draft class as Lester Hayes, I believe it was.
Yeah. Okay, I remember that name.
Lester Hayes was a famous cornerback. He was the guy famous for all the stickum he would wear on his arms to get interceptions.
Yeah, I remember that.
My dad actually blew out his knee during training camp. So this was back in the day when, you couldn't just they didn't have the technology to fix a knee like that at the time.
Yeah.
So once it was done, that was your career.
Okay. And they didn't, I'm not sure about the contract details, but if it's during training camp, you probably didn't get a contract, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure the details, but he definitely didn't make much money playing professional football. So that was a great lesson to my brother and I. Going into it, he always sort of showed us that the sport is going to use you up to a certain extent.
Okay.
And you have to get out of it what you can. Be it
sure. Leverage
and it's not just the money aspect, but you can get college paid for if you're good at the sport. You can not only the lessons that you learn, obviously, which is a huge part of it, but also just sort of realizing that is not the end goal.
Yeah.
The end goal is you're using the sport to sort of help develop you as a person and get you ready for life. Because even if you're John Elway and have a 20-year career and you go out winning the Super Bowl on your last play, you're still a 40-year-old man. Let's say.
What are you going to do next?
What are you going to do next? You look at LeBron and all that he's accomplished. There's going to be a day when he's not going to be playing basketball in the NBA anymore.
Yeah.
And so part of learning a sport is learning yourself and growing to the place where you're ready for hopefully the majority of your life is going to be not playing competitive sports.
Yeah. Okay.
But the lessons that you learn while you're playing will help you in everything that you do, really.
Sure. No, that's important. Not only just football, but any sport for that matter. And I want to make sure the audience members know this is that you actually played at one of the top schools in college. You mentioned, using football to get an education. Tell us about your story at Stanford. Stanford is just not a regular college. I mean, it's top five college across the country. And you played football there and got a degree from Stanford. Explain that experience.
It was an incredible experience. Again, my dad was working for Xerox at the time, and Xerox, one of their headquarters, or the place where he would go a lot, was right outside of Palo Alto. So he would always be around the peninsula and the Stanford campus. And he basically determined hey, I want my kids to go to Stanford. So as we were playing football and going along years, my brother was a year ahead of me.
And he played there too?
He played there as well.
Oh, man, that's amazing. Amazing. I mean, 2 D1 athletes in the family.
Yeah.
Man, I love that.
So he was, my brother was all-state. He was student governor of Illinois. He whatever superlatives, he sort of hit them all out of the park. And at the time, his junior year, I believe, Denny Green, the head coach, Denny Green, he was at Northwestern, which is in the Chicago area. So my brother was on his radar.
He went on to coach at Minnesota, right? Denny Green? No, is that the same guy?
Yeah. They went, I think, to the NFC Championship one year undefeated and lost. all that. Anyway, so Coach Green was looking at my brother when he was at Northwestern, and then my brother's senior year, Denny went on to coach at Stanford. So he changed jobs, and then was already on his radar. So they started recruiting my brother. As they were recruiting my brother, as they were watching the game tapes, they were seeing me as well, doing very well in games and stuff like that. So and my brother again excelled at. He actually played. He went to Minnesota when Denny coached Minnesota. So my brother also had a 5 or so year career as an NFL player.
Oh, wow.
He played linebacker.
What was your brother's name again? Say his first name.
His name was Dave Garnett. His name is Dave Garnett.
Dave Garnett. Okay. I'm going to look him up. Yeah.
He played linebacker for mainly the Vikings, but he also played with Denver and with the Carolina Panthers.
Got it.
In those. But I think he started and finished in Minnesota. So my brother was on Denny's radar. Denny recruited him to play at Stanford. As a freshman, my brother started, I want to say, all the games and became a captain of the team as a freshman.
Wow.
So
it just gives me shivers just because I know how competitive, what is it, Pac-10, Pac-12 back in the day, but
it was Pac-10
as a freshman, captain of the team.
Yeah, as a freshman. I see your Fight On Trojans thing. We'll get into that a little later.
Yeah, there were some good games between Stanford and SC for sure.
Yeah, so with him, making such an impact his freshman year, and then me having great game tape my junior and senior years, they recruited me, brought me out there as well. And it was a great experience. I was there 5 years. I redshirted my freshman year, and we sort of built up. My brother's class, they had guys like John Lynch, who's in the NFL Hall of Fame.
Big time.
Bob,
safety, right? Big time safety.
Yeah, big time safety. Bob Whitfield, who was a number 9 overall pick, offensive tackle. Darian Gordon, who was a cornerback return man for the Chargers, actually. They were Chargers. There were a bunch of guys in that class. So my freshman year, I think we were right around 500. My sophomore year, we went to the Aloha Bowl. We ended up 8-4, lost to Georgia Tech in the Aloha Bowl. Then my junior year, we tied for the Pac-10 championship with Washington, I believe. Beat us, but we talked at the time the way that stats, we were co-champions. Then we went and played this will tell you how old I am. We played in the Blockbuster Bowl.
And I saw there was a Blockbuster, like a cutaway in the movie too. Blockbuster and Tower Records, I was like, damn, back in the day, Tower Records, that's where we'd go right after high school. Oh, man. That's crazy. So Kevin, I want to ask a question in terms of, so a lot of student athletes here listening in, how was it? I mean, just going to Stanford, if you're an academic student going to Stanford, you may be a valedictorian, but you got other valedictorians. How difficult or challenging was it to, go to practice, go to games, and then attend Stanford classes? Was it hard, or what was that experience there?
Well, part of it, a lot of times they say the hardest part is getting in, right?
Okay.
Getting over that hurdle and making sure that you're presenting yourself as a well-rounded person, not only on the academic side, as we spoke about, but then, your athletic side, but then there's got to be other things as well. Not only the way you present yourself in your essays and all that sort of stuff, but other activities around that show that you're not just narrowly focused. The great thing about Stanford is there's so many people around you that go on to so many great things. Cory Booker, the senator, was a senior when I was a freshman. He played tight end on the Stanford football team. When I was a fifth-year guy, I had a class with this kid named Tiger Woods, who was a freshman. He was a freshman when I was his fifth-year senior. So you're surrounded by people that are going to be at the top of their fields all over the place. Our coaches used to always say, and unfortunately it's partially true, they used to say there's 3 sort of segments to being a college athlete. There's the academic side, there's the sport itself, and then there's your social life. And they would always say you can really only do 2 of those well at a time.
Okay.
So you have to sort of choose. That
balancing act,
Balancing act. And, football or whatever sport you play in college, especially, and, now in this NIL era, it's beyond what it ever was in my era.
Yeah.
Even back then, it was a job. You are
Sure.
working your way through college. You're spending, at the time, it was supposed to be a quote unquote 40 hours a week that you were signed up for, but there were a lot of optional, wink, wink, optional hours.
Yeah. I get it. Okay.
You had to participate in as well. So it was a challenge. And one of the reasons why I didn't go to, I got econ and sociology undergrad degrees, and I got a master's in sociology while I was there.
Okay.
And one of the reasons why I didn't go on, because I work in film and television now, one of the reasons why I didn't go to film school is that 5 years of class, early morning workouts, class, practice in the afternoon, study hall, go to bed, like 5 years of that was enough for me. I was like, I'm not going to school anymore.
Yeah. And that's kind of, big time burnout. And even athletes, they go through that. No, you're right.
Yeah. So it's
thanks
very,
for sharing that.
Yeah. It is competitive, but you're really in the whatever college environment is right for you as a student, you're really sort of challenging. You're going against yourself.
Yeah.
Because whatever classes you take, there may be some classes that you take that are sort of beyond that are going to stretch your limits academically. And you may be used to getting straight A's in high school and junior high and all that sort of stuff. And, you may, God bless, you may go on to get straight A's in college.
Sure.
That was not my calling. I did well enough, but it definitely wasn't straight A's.
No, thanks for sharing that. And I want to stress something important there in terms of, grades are important. Even from high school, grades are important, and they're a little bit more important when you're applying for college. But once you get out of college, there's rarely companies that are asking, what was your GPA, right? You have that degree from Stanford, which pulls its weight in its own. But more importantly, what have you accomplished during that time? Kevin, you said you were raised in a home where excellence wasn't just encouraged, it was expected. I can hear that when you're talking about your dad. Looking back now, what were the specific standards, habits, or lessons from your upbringing that shaped the way you lead, work, and show up every day?
Well, my mom would always sort of say, if you're going to do a job, do it right. You know what I mean? Do it to the best of your ability. And it's something that we're working on with my son. You know what your task is, whether it's taking out the garbage or feeding the cat or whatever the case may be. Don't do it halfway. When you know what the right way is to do it right, do it 100%, do it to its fullest, because there's always a shortcut you can take, no matter what the assignment is. There's always, even if you're just doing it slowly,
you're right,
as opposed to doing it in the pace that you're supposed to be doing it. So we had chores, and if the dishes weren't clean or whatever, then you'd have to go out and do it again. They'd give us just various chores that we'd have to do on the regular, and then there may be other things that we have to do. I remember we moved into a house once, and before the yard we were able to put sod down, there was a bunch of rocks and nails and stuff.
Yeah.
And we had to go out and clear out all of those rocks and all that stuff. And they used to always say, go police the yard, is what they would say.
Okay.
You'd have to go out and pick up trash or whatever.
Yeah.
And those were just sort of some of the things that you had to do. But they would always have us sort of work. And I remember there was a little stint when my parents were into tennis. One of the reasons why I don't like tennis now, my parents used to have my brother and I be ball boys. So we would stand
so
on
after they hit
side.
it, you go get it.
we would like Wimbledon or something. We'd be on the sides and have to run across and grab the balls and stuff. So they constantly had us working, but they also rewarded us. We weren't rich growing up. We did well. My parents did well financially. We weren't rich, but there was nothing that we wanted that we couldn't have. We didn't want much. Some Star Wars action figures and
yeah.
But there was nothing that was off limits to us. But you also had to earn all the things. If you wanted something, you had to work for it. You had to. They sort of looked at school as this is your job.
Okay, I love that. So you can. All right, let's pause right here for a second. I want to ask you something. If nothing changed over the next 6 to 12 months, would your student athlete be more confident, more prepared, closer to their goals, or still hoping things just work out? That's exactly why Athletic Connect is the primary sponsor of this show, because the difference we see, it's not talent, it's structure, it's mindset, it's having a real system. Inside Athletic Connect, we help student athletes build confidence, discipline, and a clear plan from daily habits to performance to creating a digital identity that actually gets noticed by colleges. And this isn't just basketball. This is for student athletes in every sport who are serious about their future in the classroom, on the court, on the field. So here's the move. Go check out athletic.connect.com and see how we're helping athletes become built different in sport, in school, and in life. All right, let's get back to the show. Already hear how much intentional structure played a key role in your life early on. And a lot of young athletes and families today are missing that kind of foundation. And what's powerful is that those early, call it expectations, didn't just prepare you for sports, they prepared you for pressure, leadership, and life in itself. So you've experienced football, faith, entertainment, marriage, and fatherhood, all environments that demand discipline in different ways. Which one tested your consistency the most? And what did that season teach you about who you really are under pressure?
Well, probably the most difficult time during my life, around 2008. I was
Okay.
married. My wife at the time had lupus, and right
Okay.
after
Okay.
and so she had gone through, a variety of challenges. At one point, she was maybe 120 pounds. At one point, she lost 30 pounds, was in
Wow.
ICU for
Wow.
probably a month, flatlined a couple times,
Oh,
came back,
wow. Okay.
got married, and all that stuff. And then in '08, right after the writer's strike of '07, '08,
Mm.
she went into the hospital. It seemed like not such a big deal. She'd been through worse before we had thought, but she ended up passing away in March of 2008. So that happened. Then the show that I was
Wait.
working
So
on,
your wife died?
my first wife passed
Your first
away.
wife died back then? Wow.
You know,
Wow.
so
Okay.
and it's one of the things where all of the cliches sort of are true. Your
Yeah.
life shatters into a million pieces, and one of the blessings of going through something like that is you have to be purposeful about which of those pieces you pick up as you move on, because
Yeah.
you have sort of a blank slate on life, and as you rebuild, um, you have to be intentional with all the things. I was, the show that I was working on got canceled, so there I was. Wife passed away. Job was gone.
Okay.
And so I had to be very intentional. I knew there was no, and friends will check on you and that sort of thing. But on a day-to-day basis, there was no accountability with anything. So I had to sort of build in structure of, okay, these are the hours where I'm working. We'll start going to the gym, 5 days a week, making sure that I built structure, the same way my sort of parents instilled in me that structure was necessary. I had to build my own structure to make sure that I stayed on track with the things that were still important to me. So going to the gym, started doing therapy, just as sort of a check on myself to make sure some of the stuff you don't necessarily emotionally want to put on friends and family, and you want a space where you can still express those things. Joined a Bible study with the church I was going to, and then sort of really invested in building the community of writers around me, a creative community around me. And parts of that were so that you're not focusing on yourself all the time. As you go through difficulties in life, it's easy to sort of get into the woe is me portion of it. And obviously there's going to be bits of that at certain points in time, but you have to sort of know yourself and then make sure that you are structured with the way that you sort of say, okay, how am I going to, it's not getting over, it's not pulling yourself out of, but it's just like maintaining and rebuilding. And how do you
I
do
love that, man. No, thanks for sharing that. I mean, that's a very intimate personal experience. And that right there is real structure and intentionality in all things, because pressure has a way of exposing whether our habits are truly strong enough to hold us together. And you felt that pressure, right? I can't even imagine that. And I think of a lot of people listening need to hear that success isn't built during perfect moments. It's built during the moments when you don't feel like showing up or the most challenging times in your life, right? Being able to move forward. And again, thanks for sharing that. In an industry where, call it distractions, shortcuts, and outside opinions can easily pull people off course. How have discipline and effort helped you stay grounded and continue growing without losing your identity?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I think it's really about what your goals are ultimately
Mm,
in whatever it is that you're doing.
okay.
The reason why I joined the industry, so when I was in my 5th year in college, I had to do a thesis to get my master's in sociology, and my
Okay.
focus was social stratification and inequality. And long story short, I ended up doing, there were two things that I liked at the time as a 21-year-old. It was football and TV were the things that I liked the most.
Yeah.
So I ended up doing a thesis on African American social status on television,
Mm,
tracking
okay. Okay.
all of the different characters and what their social status was. And one of the conclusions of the paper was that for the images in front of the camera to change, there needed to be more people behind the camera working in whatever
Mm,
capacity to make sure that the images were genuine and truly reflective of what was going on with
okay.
real.
Okay.
So, I was inspired by Spike Lee as a kid and seeing him realizing that he wasn't just an in front of the camera person, he was also a behind the camera person.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Making his own
it-
movies. You're right.
making his own movies. I knew that I didn't want to be in front of the camera, but I came down here trying to figure out what I wanted to do behind the camera. One of my first paying job was on a movie called Set It Off, which
Okay.
was
Okay.
Queen Latifah and Vivica
Yeah.
Fox, female bank robber movie.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Not-
No, I remember. I watched that like multiple times.
Yeah, it's a classic movie, and I got to do the video assist for that, which is you work the monitors that the director looks at as he's setting up shots and stuff like that. And
Okay.
F.
Okay.
F. Gary Gray was the director of that movie, who directed Friday and Italian
Okay.
Job,
Okay.
a bunch of other stuff. And I got to sit there. This is when video assist now is, everything is more advanced. But back in the day, it was just almost like a VCR with a camera in it, and you had to push play and record for every tape to record
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
For,
Okay.
and so after going through that experience, I was like, oh, that would be a good job to be a director. And I thought to myself, well, no one's going to come to your apartment in Palms and just hand you a Star Wars script to direct. So you need to start writing yourself. So started writing, fell in love with writing. But to your point, to your question, the goal was always creating positive images of
Mm,
minorities and people of color. That was always sort of the goal. So having that goal always in mind as I was trying to figure it out and going through these different stages, that sort of kept me focused and on point, was sort of the thing, the motivation behind the everyday work. But knowing to sort of the old saying of like plan your work and work your plan,
okay.
sort of
I love those
time
phrases.
by
Yeah. We're
time.
gonna put those
Yeah.
phrases on a t-shirt and sell it worldwide, man. No,
Yeah.
it's yeah, for sure. So isn't it interesting how the people who stay grounded the longest are usually the ones with the clearest systems and call it goals and goal setting and routines behind the scenes that you're talking about. And what you're talking about really connects to something bigger, because young people today don't just need motivation. They need goals. They need to know what their goals are. They need structure that they can repeat consistently. So you mentioned being a husband and a father as key experiences that help define your leadership. How did becoming responsible for family shift your perspective on success, legacy, and the example you wanted to set every single day?
Yeah, obviously a huge shift. When you're single, it's everything is focused on you because
Yeah, yeah.
you have unless you have family obligations. I didn't have any family obligations where I had to worry about taking care of my parents or siblings or anything like that. I was out here focused on my career and sort of my development as a person. And then once you have and then even in dating relationships, it's, until you commit to being married, dating is dating, and, there's different amounts of commitment that you can have to that. But once you're sort of married and expecting a kid, you know that there are people depending on you for their survival, and you have kids, you know how it is. The first time you leave the hospital with that first child, you're like, at least we were like, how are they letting us leave with this kid? Like we took classes and we prepped and all this sort of stuff, and we still felt completely underwater and unprepared, and knowing that for the first year, like, it's on you for this little human to survive. It's your job. So just the weight of that responsibility sort of really helps you focus. One thing, I think one of the biggest things for me was just sort of it showed me at least how selfish that I was.
Okay.
You may want to go. I love Michael Jackson. I also love Prince. And Prince passed away, I think, the year that our son was born. And this club that we used to always go to was having like a Prince night to celebrate or whatever. And I remember, my son Braylon was probably 3 months old.
Okay.
And Prince and I were texting me like, oh, we should go to this thing. And I'm like, I want to go, but I also realize that I need to be here, even though it's just a regular Tuesday night or whatever. But that responsibility to like prioritize these other people over yourself. And I think, in theory, it's always theoretically, oh, you put your friends, you put these people before you and all that sort of stuff. But until it's your wife and your child, and knowing that everything you do, every decision that you make is going to have a ripple effect.
That's powerful, because legacy really starts in the daily decision nobody applauds, right? Just like you shared. And I think people forget leadership at home often becomes the foundation for leadership everywhere else. Your dad's legacy is seen through you and your brother. I hear it, I feel it, I see it, right? So if a young athlete, a creator, or future leader was listening to this episode right now and struggling with discipline, consistency, or even believing in themselves, what's the one mindset shift or standard you'd challenge them to adopt if they truly wanted to become built different?
I think the key for me and what I've done, the thing that's going to help you to be persistent and consistent and work hard, is to find that thing that you love and work at that.
Okay.
Whether it's a sport in general, whether it's an aspect of the sport, no matter what it is, if you love it, you're going to work at it even when you're tired, even when you don't feel like it. You're going to have that extra juice to go the extra mile. I remember a moment in high school. I played safety in college, but in high school I played running back and defensive end. And I remember we were doing one-on-one pass drills, so you're rushing the passer.
Okay.
And I was rushing the passer. I tried like an uppercut move, it didn't work. I tried a swim move, it didn't work. And I spun, and then I got around the guy. And the coach, I'll never forget, Coach Jackson, who was at Naperville North at the time, stopped our little drill and said, notice what Kevin did there. He tried this move, it didn't work. He tried this move, it didn't work. He tried the third move, it didn't work until the third move. But that persistence was because I was excited about it. I loved the game. And that sort of stuck with me, that persistence. So if you love something, you're going to take the extra 50 jumpers. If you love something, you're going to, do those extra drills. You're going to spend that extra hour. You're going to read that book or watch that tutorial that's going to give you a little bit of an advantage here or there. And that is, I think, the challenge for everyone in life, is finding that thing that you love so much that you can put your extra effort into it. Whether it could be cooking. So once Thanksgiving comes around, like, you're baking 5 different pies, or you're cooking for your family, and that's something you love, but you want to find that thing. So even if you have a job that isn't necessarily your passion, make sure that that job is able to help you feed into your passion. That
Yeah, I
job's
love
going
that.
to give you
Love
a
that.
schedule so that you can go do your karaoke nights or whatever, or be in your off-Broadway plays or what have you, or,
Yeah. Yeah.
or ideally you want to have a job that you also love so that it's
Perfect
compounding
situation.
effect.
Yeah.
But if that's not the case, finding that thing that you love and sort of building around that thing, even if it's family. I know some guys with like multiple, like 5 kids, and they build their life around like making sure that their job lets them off at a time so that they can take all the kids to practice and coach the teams and direct
Yeah.
musical and do all that kind of stuff. But like when you find that thing that you're super passionate about, you will make room for that. You'll spend extra time around that, and you'll excel at that if you make sure that you're spending time. Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that, Kevin. So, last question I have for you. We covered a lot of key philosophies, strategies, mindsets. Was there anything you'd like to share with our group that we didn't cover, or even something you want to reiterate? Kind of open mic for you to our listeners. We have students, student athletes, former players, future leaders. Is there anything you want to share with our audience members? Kind of open mic for you.
Yeah. Let me think. One of the things, there's sort of 5 words that I sort of not repeat every morning, but remind myself of every day. And that's one, to be present as much as possible, so that you can truly experience. You only go through this life once. You only
Okay.
have every moment you have once. So being present will help you to value and sort of squeeze the juice out of every moment. And also remind myself to be flexible, but also to be disciplined.
Okay.
And I think those go hand in hand. They seem on the surface to be opposed to each other, but
Yeah.
me, in my mind, whenever I think about that, I think of, and I know it's a movie, but I think of like Bruce Lee fighting 20 guys.
Yeah.
He had the discipline to have the technique to fight off each one, but then also the flexibility so that no matter what is coming at you, you can adjust to that thing.
Adjust. Yeah.
Take on that challenge as well. So also to be generous with your time, generous with your talents, generous with everything that you have.
Love that.
Just because that's the way we were raised, and it sort of goes to my Christian background, just to try to be generous with everything that you have, and then to be grateful. There's every day, I think there's always something to complain about, and I'm a writer first, and when you're in writers' rooms, there's people have mastered the art of complaining.
Yeah.
Whether it's lunch is 10 minutes late, or we got to stay an extra half hour, whatever it is, people are very skilled at being pessimistic and that sort of stuff. But I always try to be grateful as much as possible. Your life, your health, your family, your friends, your job, your vocation, your own flaws and your mistakes. You can be grateful for these things because they are things that you can work on, things that you can focus on to get better at all aspects of life. So gratitude, I think, is a huge part. And if you go through life sort of looking for things to be grateful for instead of looking for things to complain about, you're going to find things to be grateful for sure. Whether they're small or big. Those things.
Yeah.
And those things will add up and will again change your attitude. Even if you get, back in the football days, if you get burnt for a touchdown, okay, I'm glad that happened because next time I'm going to be ready to intercept that ball or to cut that off or make sure that doesn't happen again. So I can learn from this. I can go to the tape and sort of say, okay, and then the next play up, I'll be ready to take on that challenge.
And I love that. Kevin, I appreciate you for bringing honesty, wisdom, and perspective to this conversation today. This is exactly what Built Different is about. Family, that was a real one. Kevin didn't just talk about success today. He talked about standards, discipline, effort, consistency, the things that don't always trend online, but quietly build strong people over time. And what stood out most is this: every environment he stepped into, football, entertainment, marriage, fatherhood, leadership, demanded intentionality. Find what you love doing, he said. He shared, right? Find what you love doing. He mentioned being present, flexible, yet disciplined, being generous, being grateful and gratitude, having gratitude. Nothing was handed to him. He built himself through habits. And if you're listening right now, understand this. Talent might open a door, but consistency is what keeps you in the room. If you're an athlete, stop waiting for motivation and build routines and find your goals. If you're a parent, create environments that reinforce standards early, just like Kevin's dad. And if you're a leader, remember, people follow what you consistently model. Family, what Kevin shared today is exactly why mindset, discipline, and systems matter so much. Family, if this episode challenged you, inspired you, or gave you perspective, share it. Share it with somebody who needs it. Kevin, I appreciate you again for the wisdom, the authenticity, and the example you continue to set. Thank you so much for your time.
Oh, yeah, thank you for having me on. It was fun.
And this is where Athletic Connect comes in. Through tools and services like the Victory Compass, Power Hour, Mindset Mirror, Goal Sync, Fight On Mentality, Built Different Mindset, and the College Pathway Intelligence, athletes and families get more than inspiration. They get a real framework for growth, a framework that helps them gain clarity, develop elite habits, strengthen their mindset, and make smarter moves for the future. If today's episode resonated with you, don't just listen and move on, apply it. Watch and listen to the Built Different Studio Podcast on all major podcast and video platforms, including Spotify, Apple, and YouTube. And if you believe your story, your leadership, or your journey can impact the next generation, visit www.athletic.connect.com. That's with an IQ, and fill out the application to be on the show. This is bigger than content. This is about building champions in school, sport, and life. Handle today with intention. That's how champions are built. Fight on. Remember this, family. Talent might open the door, but your mindset, your habits, and your discipline decide how far you go. So keep showing up, keep building, and keep choosing the harder road, because that's the one that makes you built different. I'm Coach Randy, and this is the Built Different Studio Podcast.